Good morning, class 10. How are you guys doing? I hope you all are doing great. Good. Taking care of yourselves. You had a wonderful exam, I guess, and I hope you have liked it. And the system, whichever it went through, and there were some flaws, but it will be taken care of. So, anyways, so without much ado, we are back on SSC on the online classes, and we are in that federalism part where I had already briefed you in early videos about it, but I'll just take you through and we'll try to see how far we can go ahead with it. And we were on that place which is called linguistic diversity of India, and after that we'll do the decentralization. What is all this decentralization about? What's a coalition government and what happened in the use of the languages, how federalism is practiced actually. Now if we go to see that, I have not read your book yet, and if you want I can read it from here and we can take it through. We have early seen how small countries like Belgium and Sri Lanka face so many problems of managing diversity, right? What about a vast country like India with so many languages, religions and regions? What are the power sharing arrangements in our country? Let us begin with the Constitution of India had emerged as an independent nation after a painful and bloody partition. Now, soon after the independence, several princely states became a part of the country. The Constitution declared India as a union of states, although it did not use the word federation. The Indian Union is based on the principles of federalism. Let us go back to the 7 features of federalism mentioned above. We can see that all of these features apply to the provision of Indian Constitution. The Constitution originally provided for a 2-tier system of government. The union government, or what we call the central government, representing the Union of India, and the state government. Later a 3rd tier of federalism was added in the form of panchayats and municipalities. As in any federation, these different tiers enjoy separate jurisdictions. The Constitution dearly provided a 3-fold distribution of legislative powers between the union government and the state governments. Thus, it contains 3 lists: union list, state list, and the concurrent list. Now, the union list includes subjects of national importance such as defense of the country, foreign affairs, banking, communication, and currency. They are included in this list because we need a uniform policy on these matters throughout the country. The union government alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the union list. There has to be one brain, otherwise everything is going to go hodgepodge. State list. Now this is all happening in the state. Whoever the CM is, he is going to think about his own people, his or her own people. Now, state list contains subjects of the state and local importance, such as police, trade, commerce, agriculture and irrigation of that particular state part. Okay. Now, the state government alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the state list. He cannot go outside that. What's a concurrent list? That's very important. A concurrent list includes subjects of common interest to both the union government as well as the state governments, such as education, forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption, succession. Both the union as well as state governments can make laws on the subjects mentioned in this list. If their laws conflict with each other, the law made by the union government will prevail. So automatically they must be having a discussion before they put up any laws in the concurrent list. Now what happens to the subjects that do not fall in any of these 3 lists, or subjects like computer software that came up after the constitution was made? According to our constitution, the union government has the power to legislate on the residuary subjects. They can only decide, no one else can. We noted above that most federations that are formed by holding together do not give equal power to its constituent units. Thus, all states in India Union do not have identical powers. Some states enjoy a special status. Jammu and Kashmir has its own constitution. It's changed now. Many provisions of the Indian constitutions are applicable of the state without the approval of the state assembly. Indians who are not permanent residents of the state cannot buy land or house here. Now you can buy. Still you cannot buy. Indians who are not permanent residents of this state, but now you can go and buy after it's become a union territory. Similarly, special provisions exist for some other states as well as India, like in Sikkim, Mizoram, Assam. There are some units of the Indian Union which enjoy very little power. These areas which are too small to become an independent state but which could not be merged with any other existing states. Chandigarh, Lakshadweep or the capital of Delhi are called union territories. These territories do not have the power of a state. The central government has special powers in running these states. Benefits are better. Sharing power between the union government and the state government is basic to the structure of the constitution. It is not easy to make changes to this power sharing arrangement. The parliament cannot on its own change the arrangement. Any change, it has to be first passed both by the houses of the parliament with at least 2/3 majority. Then it has to be ratified by the legislatures of at least half of the total seats. The judiciary plays an important role in overseeing the implementation of constitutional provisions and procedures. In case of any dispute about the division of powers, the high courts and the Supreme Court make a decision. The union and the state governments have the power to raise resources by levying taxes in order to carry on the government and the responsibilities assigned to each of them. They put a tax on it. They decide upon the taxes which is going to be paid. That's the finance department. They sit and try to do it. Now, how federalism is practiced, if we come to know basically. I was just thinking, linguistic states after independence in 1950, the boundaries of several old states were changed in order to create new states. This was done to ensure actually people who spoke the same languages, linguistic, share the common culture, ethnicity or geography could live in the same state. The language policy was there. The Indian constitution did not give the status of national language to any one of the languages, though Hindi was identified as the optional language. But the central government has not imposed Hindi on states where people speak a different language. Besides Hindi, there are 22 other languages recognized in and scheduled languages by the Indian constitution. Now, what is the center-state relation? How federalism is practiced? Improving the center-state relations is one more way in which federation has been strengthened in practice. The Indian constitution has demarcated the powers of the union and state governments, but still the union government can have influence over the state in many ways. In the past, the central government has often misused the constitution to dismiss the state governments that were controlled by rival parties. This undermined the spirit of federalism and that of democracy. So the judiciary came into it and has played a major role in improving the autonomy of the state governments, because many a time it has rescued state governments which were dismissed in an arbitrary manner by the union government because of they were not of the same party. Okay. Understood. Now, linguistic states, as I said, they are divided, the states divided on the basis of the language. It's a common multilingual country like India where diverse languages are there. So for better administration and reduction of the possibility of regional conflicts in future, states in India have been carved out on a linguistic basis. Understood my point? I'll come back in the next video.